You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Gene. Johnson.
From the AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies.
This is AFTERBUZZ TV's Resurrection After Show.
We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show.
It's AFTERBUZZ TV's Resurrection After Show.
Welcome back, Resurrection fans. I'm your host, Zach Wilson. What a crazy... We just watched the finale of Resurrection.
Done.
Insanity. Like, the way we went... Just like they've done throughout the season, the way we went out of the episode just raised it to, like, it was building, and then they kick you in the face.
I know, it's a time
in the
for
last
season 2
30
yet?
seconds. Yeah, so what a cliffhanger to go out on, but we'll get into that. So much on the docket for tonight to talk about. Chelsea, first reactions. Well, first of all, I want to... I'm Zach Wilson.
Hey, I'm Chelsea.
So much to talk about. Matt Lieberman and G. Madison both couldn't be here tonight. They both had other big obligations they couldn't get out of, but they were missing out.
They're lost, man.
And just stick around. Later in the show, we're going to have Mark Hildreth, Pastor Tom, calling in.
Talk to him.
So looking forward to that. But yeah, first reactions to this finale.
I mean, I feel like my mind's just blown a little bit, but in the best way possible. I didn't really know how they were going to leave us. And I have to say I wasn't expecting that ending, but I thought that was a very, very cool way to end the season. Because it leaves so many questions. It kind of, in a weird way, puts pieces of the puzzle together. But no, I thought it was really great.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting all of these returned back. Mm-hmm. There's upwards of 250 people back now.
Which is just... So I thought maybe throughout the rest of the season there'd be, 1 or 2, maybe 3 coming back, not 300.
Yeah, we figured there was going to be a slow build, like one per episode.
Right.
So we were calling it early.
Not a whole town worth of people, but
yeah, there were so many. I mean, so we get into there, and like Marty at the very top of the episode is, well, we open up the episode first before we get to there.
Yeah.
On this bug. I think it was a locust.
Well,
with all the themes in this show, I'm not really an etymologist.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't have my insects down completely.
But with all the themes of this show,
makes sense.
So heavily on religion, I imagine they were locusts.
I think that's a good call. I'll agree with you on that.
Or they reminded me of the cicadas, like those swarms that attack you. I grew up in the Northeast, and we got attacked by cicadas.
I don't know what a cicada is.
You're better off. But then we go into Marty calls his boss, who we haven't seen in a while.
Right.
He calls
She's
her at
sleeping.
2 in the morning, and is like, "Hey,
P.S.
I think we might need some help on this one." It's gotten out. Even Marty realizes it's gotten out of control, I think.
But do you think that I don't know an alternative, but do you think that was a good move for him to do? I think it was the only thing he could do, because they're having trouble feeding these people at this point. Like the grill, like this tiny local small town can't feed all those
grill
people.
Cannot feed 250 people out of nowhere.
Yeah.
They can't afford. I'm sure the grill can't afford to like just give these people food. The town doesn't have the money to pay for it. They need aid, and Marty's boss cooks up a nice little cover story for them.
Fred ruins everything.
Yeah, I mean, she says that they're
from the flood.
Yeah, there's a flood. It was a flood, and these people just needed help, and they needed like just basic reliefs. And so when the army shows up, and that's like a big moment for us.
So
like,
dramatic.
Oh no!
Yeah,
the army! Run for the hills! Returned! Run!
Yeah,
and then they're like, I heard you got the captain just comes out.
We've got some food.
I heard you guys needed some help.
Yeah, that was a great build-up, I thought, on there, and with that music and the dramatic, you know, showing their uniforms and walking out all serious, and then he's like, I heard you guys need some help.
And I didn't think that the military guy was like hiding anything, but
no,
I did get the feeling that there was something up.
Clearly,
like, or that something was, rather not that there was something up, but there was something bad on the horizon. It was too good a situation to last. And then we got so there's more going on here, and Fred is got his whole thing, but everybody's trying to pitch in at first. Like Rachel is like very much like, we see her standing over her own dead body,
which I think is one of the craziest even snippets of a scene throughout the whole season, and I can't. That brings like a lot of depth to it. The living returned is looking at the dead version of themselves. That's kind of heavy.
The entire show is described in that one shot of Rachel, the body of like the dead body of Rachel, panning up and seeing a live Rachel number 3. Rachel number 3.
Rachel.
But so she is she's helping out the Dr. Ward is helping out, and like, so his .38 theory out the window. Everyone's just like, guess not.
Yeah. I guess he tried, so A for effort.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing I was worried he was going to be a bad guy in this show.
I'm still not sure. I'm not completely sold that his. I feel like I'm not sure.
You think he might? I guess there's potential that he could be, because I say that he's being a good guy because he gave up the list. Like he knows, and like Maggie reminds us that he's helping these returned will help cure his leukemia. But he's willing to give that up because he knows that there, or at least he seemingly knows that there's a bigger thing at work here. And so I want to think he's a good guy.
I do. Maybe I just don't like the fact that he is so into Maggie, and I just want Maggie and Agent to be together.
Yeah, but then basically it all turns to hell when Fred shows the military guy.
Fred is so on the bottom of my list now after this episode. I can't justify any of his actions. He's putting so many people's, I guess technically their lives, in his hands because he's so upset and pissed and hurt and all these emotions at his wife. But you can't. That is not the proper way to handle situations.
We get Maggie. She goes to see her mom, and like we got that at the end of the last episode, but we catch up with her, and she's just so emotional about it. And then we find out that the mom's not only is she back, but she's been back for a week.
Right.
And she didn't she went and watched Maggie and didn't say anything.
But that doesn't count as anything. Especially if you're a mother.
It really doesn't.
Banging down your daughter's door to talk to her, to see her, to feel her, to anything. You can't just hide out.
Yeah, and that build up that came over all of this time that she's been gone, and I think it just was accentuated as when Maggie found out that her mom was cheating on her father.
Oh yeah.
It all comes out in that moment where Maggie the fact that her mom didn't go even see Fred for a week, the fact that she didn't go see her, and watching her doesn't count, that she didn't go talk to these people, that should have been her first move.
I agree.
It doesn't matter.
With you.
In Maggie's mind, it doesn't matter that you had an affair, whatever.
Right.
Who is this man? And she says
and why
what
is he so important?
Yeah, she says it. What is he to you?
A fling. That's what she said.
And I think that's how she sees. She's like, this was just like a guy you're having an affair with. Right. And
but clearly he takes so much more priority over
You chose to go see him. I mean, this is the thing. It's like if you disappeared, however she was feeling when she passed away, she still feels that way. She still remembers this dark version of Fred that...
I wonder how much truth there is. Well, now I guess we see there's a lot of truth to it.
Yeah, we are starting to see the dark side of Fred. She didn't like Fred back then, and we know Fred is this sort of soft guy. And so when Maggie says to her mother, she goes, "You tell him all of this, or I will."
I will.
Which is like, there's no "or I will" in my mind. That's a daughter should never be put in that position.
No, she shouldn't, but I think in all fairness to that situation, she was putting herself in that situation because of, I think, the loyalty that she's grown to her father.
Oh, yeah. No, and the threat was warranted.
Oh, like, absolutely.
Her mother
she needed to hear that.
Barbara needs to go tell Fred what's up.
Maggie's pretty much saying, like, be a woman, step up to the plate. Like, this is entirely on your shoulders. Now, either you somewhat, quote unquote, fix it, or I'm going to, start to air your dirty laundry and, you can take it from there. So,
and I mean, we think the problem is, like, we're forced to treat Barbara as a mature woman, or at least in our minds, because Maggie's so old. We have to, and Fred's so old. We put her on level with them.
Right.
But she's not younger than Maggie. Oh, right. I think we've got Mark on the line.
Hello.
Hi, Mark.
Hi,
Mark. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
We literally we came out of watching the episode and came into here. Fantastic job on the finale.
Thank you. We're so proud of it, and it's such an honor, and such a privilege to have so many fans. I've been tweeting all night. My thumbs are exhausted.
Yeah, then thank you for calling so late. I know you're on the East Coast. But how has the fan reaction been to the finale? How have you felt with all these fans coming at you over the season?
Oh man, it's been so amazing. I mean, ABC's been just so fantastic with us. They really, they let us make the show we wanted to make, and they really put a lot of faith and trust into us right from the beginning of the year. And and just to see how people have reacted and responded to us and really gotten behind the show and gotten behind the actors and the characters, and it's so good on so many levels, man. It's hard to express how lucky we all feel to get to work with the people that we get to work with every day. We have some of the best writers and the best directors. Our cast is like a family. Mm-hmm. But then to go and make something you love so much, and then to see how much people love it, it really moves you. It's heartwarming, because we have a show that what we have is a show about family. And everybody responds to that, and it's been amazing.
Yeah, I think we've seen that just in the people that listen to this show, that people have really latched on to the whole, like, every one of the characters and every one of the plot lines. Do you think that what did you find when you were first given the character of Pastor Tom? Did you connect to him? Is there anything in particular that drew you to the role?
Yeah, I connected to him right away. It's one of those roles that it's unusual to have a role that just sits on you right away. And I remember reading it, and it just felt like me. And I think that the thing that was probably the thing that jumped off the page the most to me was he's really trying to do the right thing. Mm-hmm. That's the most important thing. He just tries to do the right thing, and he's the thing that's so great about that I love playing about him is that and that all the characters, this is what I mean by like having great writers. They put every character, they put them in the worst possible position for that character, for the history of that character. Mm-hmm. So he's the spiritual leader of this community. He's not just a guy who quietly worships in his home by himself. They put him at the head of the community, and then they give him the worst ethical conundrum to deal with.
Yeah,
there's a pastor who's been married for 10 years, and then his girlfriend, his fiance, comes back, and it's the highest possible stakes, and that's like water in a desert for an actor. It's just been so great.
Yeah, I think it's something that I really found that I connected to with that character. It's just that when I first heard about this show, that like that's your situation, Tom's situation of like being introduced to an old lover who you've just has passed on and you've moved on, was like one of the things I was like, I bet they're gonna do that plot line. It would be great. Did you find that the fans that were reacting to this are any crazier than like fans of like any kind of like a regular show or any of that you've done before?
Well, I wouldn't say crazier. I'd say you know, they've been so the fans have been so. My experience of the fans so far has been they've been so supportive. And, you know, I've really got, as the season's gone on, gotten more and more and more behind us. And, you know, I'm reading my Twitter feed tonight, and it's like and there's just so many, you know, I mean, so many people are writing to us. And every second tweet is like, when's season 2? When's season 2? When's season 2? When's season 2?
When is
Can't wait for season 2, you know?
Yeah, now we're asking too.
And I wish I could tell them. I don't have an answer, you know, so it's killing me too.
Yeah,
we'll know soon. We'll know in the next 2 weeks for sure.
Awesome.
Great.
Have you heard anything, like, do you have anything that you really want to see in season 2, or have you heard like any possible directions for the show?
You know, I honestly, we didn't even know the directions in season 1 when we were making season 1.
That's cool.
We really were going script to script, and it was a surprise for us every week also, you know, and we'd get a new script and we'd go, oh my God, like that's where we're going. Like it was so, it was just a shock. And there's so many twists and turns, and you know, these plot twists and reveals that we would get to read each week and you know, and then go the next week and get to play it. And season 2, I mean, I can't tell you, you know, I really don't know, but as you saw at the end of the season, and one of the things that I really like about where the season ended was, you know, we really focused on this small town, and it was so contained, and it was so about this little family and the people who knew the family and the people who knew this little boy. And by the end of, you know, 8 episodes later, the whole thing is blown up, you know, and the government's involved, and it's just, you know, there's so many possibilities, there's so many directions that we can go in now. You know, you get that feeling kind of like Lost, you know, like it could just explode and go anywhere.
Yeah, I had to be told to stop bringing up Lost in my comparisons to this show. But that's the fun, I think, of a show like this, is that you really get that, like, that mystery that so every week we're like gathering on the water cooler, like, oh, what do you think is this going to happen?
Yeah.
Is this character going to do this? Is this character going to do that? It's a lot of fun. I mean, that's, I know you've done you did V and a lot of like comic book animated shows. Are you drawn to those kind of like the nerdy science fiction fantasy shows by like your preference, or did you just fall into it?
You know, I don't know. I think I guess I kind of fell into it. It wasn't on purpose, but the thing that you know, for me personally, the thing that I love the most about our show is it makes you think, you know, or it gives you something to think about. And you know, I'll say that, you know, publicly, I'll say Lost was its own thing. You know, that was a whole different thing, and that was quite an accomplishment. And to even be mentioned in the same breath is flattery. But you know, it was a show that I thought really gave you everything. You know, it gave you something on so many levels. You know, there was drama and there was action and it was entertaining, and then there was this whole philosophical sort of underpinning. And that's one of the things that I love about our shows. You know, if you just want to watch it and have fun and go on a ride, you know, we have that to a T. But beyond that, you know, there's a lore to it. You know, there's a mythology that you can tell has been woven into the fabric of the world of the show. And you know, there's so many things that we've set up in season 1 that really haven't even been close to being paid off yet. You know, like Maggie's mom, and then, you know, now with Bellamy and the fact that he's one of the returned, you know, major things, all the way to little things like the cicadas. You know, like, what is that? What's the deal with all the dead bugs?
Yeah,
I wish I could tell you. I don't even know.
I was looking at it like, oh, it's like the plague of the locusts. Like we're doing like,
yeah, we literally rewind and fast forward the little bug in the beginning to try to figure out what it was.
Or if it's like, I mean, I grew up on the Northeast, so I remember the cicada storms where there's just those shells are everywhere. Maybe the cicadas are just returned.
And it was actually set up a couple episodes ago, because in Bellamy's dream, where the SWAT team comes in and kidnaps Jacob from his house, and then he wakes up, the reason he woke up from his dream was he saw a cicada walking across the coffee table.
That's right. Oh man, I totally forgot.
What do we do without you?
These little, what do they call them? They call them Easter eggs, right? These little hints that are dropped that you don't know where they're going to go. It's kind of like,
That's cool.
You have so much possibility, and believe me, I'm as excited as you guys are to know what's going to happen.
Yeah, we're definitely excited. So I'm curious because as I said before, you have done a lot of animated shows. Do you like doing voiceover or live action? Do you have a preference? Do you just enjoy doing both of those as you go through your career?
Man, I love them both. I mean, if you ask any actor, they'll probably tell you the truth. You're just happy to be working.
Yeah,
it's great to be able to. I feel, I'm very lucky, to have gotten to work as much as I have, and I've done a lot of voiceover, and it's a totally different world. A lot of times people ask me, like, what do you like better, like, music or acting? Because I'm a singer and I've made a couple records and I performed a lot that way, and it's kind of a Sophie's choice. It's hard to pick, and they're so different. But voiceover is a whole different world, and it's a world where you create a character using only your voice, so you don't get to lean on anything that you might do with your body or your face, it really influences the way that I do stuff, or the way that I act in film and TV and theater. Because the character's voice is so important, and everybody talks the way they talk because of who they are. It's like if you grew up in Boston, you don't just talk like you're from Boston by accident. Like that's part of the culture and part of how you grew up, and it tells you so much about a character. So I was lucky to get into voiceover when I was, like 10 years old, and it's really taught me to appreciate. When I listen to somebody speak, it shows me who they are. And I get to bring that into my characterizations, and as I thought about how does Tom speak, and what would this be like, and when he has to be up in front of people every week giving a sermon, telling them, trying to help them in their lives and reveal things for them and help them with their problems, and that's going to influence the way a person talks. Like that's going to influence the way a person speaks all the time. And it's like little details like that I probably wouldn't have noticed if I hadn't, had the good fortune to, to get to work in voiceover as much as I have.
Yeah, and it's definitely something I think we've commented throughout the season, that your performance has a great subtlety to it that can only come from somebody who's sort of calm and collected, who's then confronted with something that they cannot handle. I mean, what do you think, if not Pastor Tom, but you, what would you do if somebody
this was really
came
your
back?
Real life?
I think I would freak out. I mean, I think I would lose my freaking mind. I don't know like what I would do. I mean, this was the thing that was like so cool to think about, like how does somebody respond? And the writers really made characters. They wrote characters who were so distinct and had such distinct personalities, and it's beautiful because you get a point of view from all sides to look at how, like, everybody's got someone they can relate to, and you get to see that in the season finale with Matt Craven's character, with Sheriff Fred. Is you get to see someone who really turns against them, which we hadn't really seen up until that point. Exactly in that way, where he just made them all bad. And it's kind of like a metaphor for how people do. We never saw, people returning from the dead, as a sort of a supernatural or a hooky spooky thing, in this show. It's a device that drives the dramatic, tension. And it's a metaphor really for like what people are like in real life, when you're dealing with someone who's different than you, or something you don't understand. Or something like death, which nobody can wrap their head around that. Never mind people coming back from death. So in that way, it was kind of like, okay, well, how would I react to that? How would I really feel in that situation? Well, I just tried on like, okay, well, I've had people die in my life, and everybody's had, that happen to them, or they will. And those things are like unexplainable, but people have to deal with them. That was really no different than the, how unexplainable it is that somebody would come back to life. So, in that way, it was sort of like, okay, I think I can kind of go there. I think I can kind of, figure that out. And then, like I said, we had, we were so fortunate because we had writers who took the characters in directions where it was like, okay, so people are coming back from the dead. All right. As if that's not bad enough, let's put him, let's make it his ex-fiancée who committed suicide.
That's now pregnant.
Let's make it their long-lost son who was like the entire meaning of their existence, and now they have nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Let's make it, your father who you loved beyond belief, who he turns out was like, a murderer. It's so great. It's so much fun, man. This show has been it's so much fun. We all have such a good time making it. It's a blast.
Yeah, I mean, so going forward, you don't know anything, but is there anything you would love to do with Pastor Tom as a character? Like any places you would love to see him go or things to deal with?
I'm reluctant to. I mean, of course, I won't lie. Of course, I've been thinking about it. Because I love this character. I love this show, and we're such a little team. I can't wait to get back with my team and play the next season. But I'm reluctant to kind of go too far ahead and and create too many expectations. But
right.
I will say I really think it'd be interesting to see Tom really have to confront his faith.
Okay.
And really come up against okay, what do I do now that everything that I believe has been questioned? Here's a guy who's been preaching the miracles of God for 10 years and then, and preaching about a story about, a man, Jesus, who died and did come back from the dead, with full conviction. And now people are coming back from the dead. And what does that mean?
Right.
That's what I've been thinking about is what does that mean for someone who's been expounding the virtues and the story of the only Son of God who was resurrected, and now there's 100 other people who have been resurrected.
Yeah.
And what would that do to you? If your whole sense of self, your whole sense of life and how what's important and what life means is totally turned on its head. And I don't think we've really seen that. I don't think we've really gotten into really what that would do to a person who really held that belief so close to his heart.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't had
really interesting.
Yeah, he hasn't had a chance to breathe. And so now if he gets a little time to stop and think about it, it'd be really interesting to see what Tom does.
How he processes all of it.
Chelsea,
that's what I'm thinking. It's been it's been the whole first season is everyone's just reacting. Reacting and reacting and reacting and trying to figure out, okay, what do we do? What do we do? But it's such a, it's like crisis mode the entire season. And maybe in season 2 we'll get to see, some maybe some quieter moments or just a chance to go okay, wait a second, what does this mean?
Yeah. And what do you do? Almost like a second to have it marinate in your brain and see where you go from there.
Right.
Yeah, and so I'm curious, Mark, a little bit about just we've talked a lot about Resurrection, but how did you? You're a singer and you're an actor and you do voiceover. How did you get started on this whole path? I know you said you started when you were 10. Was it just this was your path from the start?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I was actually I started when I was 5. I was in the car with my dad when I was 5 years old, and we were we were going somewhere, and I forget where, and then there was an ad on the radio in the car there, that was an open casting call for, they were looking for 5 to 10-year-old blonde-haired boys to play the son of Pinkerton and Butterfly in the opera Madame Butterfly, which was at the Queen Elizabeth Theatre in Vancouver, Canada, where I grew up. And I don't know what I was thinking, but I was I want to do that. and my dad, who was a school teacher for 30 years, and really, has never been involved with the entertainment industry in any way. I think reluctantly took me down there, because I was really convicted. For whatever reason, I really, just wanted to do it. Took me down there, got the job, spent, 6 weeks, in front of 1,100 people a night, having this, Italian soprano scream at me for 3 hours. And for some reason, I was like, yeah, this is for me.
You're hooked.
Yeah, so that was the acting bug, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, it'll find you, it'll bite you, and you'll never get rid of it. Do you have anything else coming up? We're impatiently waiting for the announcement about season 2, but until then, what else can you tell the listeners? What else you've got cooking?
Well, the thing that I'm always doing whenever I can, and I get lucky and I get to work as an actor, it always affords me a little bit of time to focus on music again. So, I'm going to be playing in LA. I love to play, and I've as I said, I got 2 records that are up on iTunes and on my website at markhildreth.com. So I'll be playing those, and I'm actually writing a new album. So I've been spending a lot of time in the studio working with the musicians that I work with, and singing and playing and writing a lot of new stuff. Great. Do you know when those shows are?
Yeah, we'll have to come see you.
Yeah. I will. I don't have dates off the top of my head, but I always post everything up at markhildreth.com. So they're that's where I sort of connect with fans and put tour dates and talk about what bagel I had for breakfast and all those things.
Great. Well, we'll definitely check that out. I think I'm gonna try to go see those shows. It sounds great. Thank you so much for joining us, Mark.
Thank you so much.
Can you tell the people where other than markhildreth.com, do you have a Twitter account where people can find you?
Yeah, it's Hildreth Mark. It's twitter.com/HildrethMark. And I have a fan page on, if you search me on Facebook, there's a Facebook fan page. And then, the best place is markhildreth.com, because, it's got links to all those things. It's sort of a hub for all the stuff that I'm up to. All right, great. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations again on season 1. Thank you guys so much. It's such a pleasure, and thanks for supporting us. Absolutely. Of course. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thanks. Okay. That was fantastic. That was fantastic. It's great getting to talk to, for those of you who may have jumped in and out, that was Mark Hildreth, a.k.a. Pastor Tom. Fantastic show. Let's get back we've already got deep into this show. Let's get back into the episode itself. Before we do that, we're going to talk real quick about iTunes. Let's do it. Guys, I've talked about this all through the first season. I can't say it enough. We love this show. We love our listeners. We want to make this the best podcast, and we hope that we've made this the best podcast. And you know what? I think we have. Yeah, and although this is going to be the last one for a little while until, fingers crossed, season 2. Season 2. We can't impress on you enough how much it still matters that you go onto iTunes, go onto YouTube, go onto all the places, AfterBuzzTV.com, AfterBuzz TV app, which you can download onto your Android and iOS devices. It is so important that you help us out, that you rate us, because it helps us get guests like Mark on the show. It helps keep the network searchable, helps keep our podcast searchable, and it makes our day every time you do. It means everything to us, and it means everything to the show. It's a fantastic way to, because the network isn't just about this show, it's about everything. And every time you help keep it searchable, it keeps the lights on. Literally, it keeps the lights on in this building. It keeps so that we're not just talking in a vacuum. We'll do it. Don't get me wrong. If you've listened to the show, I'll just keep talking in a vacuum until somebody listens to me. And I've been stalling a little bit here as I pull up the shout-outs for this week, because I want to shout you guys out for writing in, for supporting our show. It's really, really important. And so I want to give a shout-out to
DGirl52, who says, great podcast. One of my favorite podcasts for one of my favorite shows. Also, I think The Returned might have a religious connection as all of them have biblical names. Jacob, Caleb, Rachel. We talked about that a little bit.
I love
There absolutely is unquestionably a religious theme going on in this show. It is... it's going to be a while ride as we get more into that and get into what the background is of The Returned in season 2. Again, fingers crossed. Tweet at ABC. Watch the episode again on your DVRs. Like this show because it does actually help support the show itself because the networks do look at podcasts and other fan media to see how the show is being reacted to and how many fans are engaged. So it's not just helping us; it's helping the show itself. JJ Barnes says, best Resurrection podcast, 5 stars. Listening AfterBuzz whenever I'm walking somewhere, and all the podcasts are awesome. Resurrection being one of my faves. I love the host and listening to this, and I almost wait for the podcast as much as I wait for the next episode.
I love that. That's very cool.
Thank you so much. And so, but here's the other way you can help before I get off topic. There's so many ways to help us out. For those of you who might not know, one of our executive producers, in addition to Phil Svitek and Kevin Undergaro, is Maria Menounos. And Maria has a show on Oxygen called Chasing Maria Menounos. And we all love this show here at AfterBuzz. We get a little bit more behind the scenes of Maria. We get to see some fun stuff about her life, her and Kevin. And there's even an episode about that deals with AfterBuzz and a nice pool party where you'll see some AfterBuzz people walking around in the background. But you can check out the show on Tuesday nights at 10 p.m. or on iTunes, Amazon, on your cable box on demand.
On Oxygen.
What did I say?
Nothing.
Okay. Well, it's on Oxygen. Thank you.
Just so you're not flipping through your TVs all Tuesday night.
You're searching, where is it? It's on Oxygen. All right. Let's get back into Resurrection.
Let's do it.
Okay. Fred's a dick. It's basically my thesis for this episode.
I want him gone. He's so selfish.
He is. I mean, like, for a moment when he's talking to Barbara, I got the feeling that he had turned it around. Like, he took that news so well.
But then at the same time, you can't take news like that well. Like, I'm sorry. I don't care how mature, whatever you want to call it. That's heavy stuff to handle. But
it is.
That doesn't mean
I took it at face value, where it was like, oh, he's matured over the years because like the loss of your wife and having to raise your daughter by yourself over all these years does soften a person. I would think. But he's like, and then he did also have time to process the affair because he found out a little while ago.
Right.
But he's like, okay.
But at the same time, she just comes back from the dead. Like, I mean, I'm not saying she has to go up and say, hi, how have you been? But she just walks up and is like, this isn't what you think it is. I can't do this anymore. You know, that was just like, oh, hi, nice to see you too. Like, it was just very, very, very forward, which, I don't know, maybe that's what you have to do in that situation.
In a way, well, think of it like a breakup. I mean, I know a lot of times people just try to rip off the Band-Aid.
Right.
I know, in the past, I've been really bad at that. I tend to draw it out, but I've had my Band-Aids ripped off, and it was probably for the best.
It usually always is. Yeah.
So
you just Barbara
walks in and is like, look, this is the deal. Peace out. And but Fred takes it so well, and like now that we've seen the rest of the episode, we know the wheel is turning.
Oh, that's why I think that's why he came off like so calm, and collected, that because he wanted to.
He pauses.
Totally pauses.
In that moment.
Thought about it and was like, okay, no problem. And then he just comes up with this whole disgusting plan.
Yeah, well, I think in that moment he decides, because he's toyed back and forth during the season about whether Jacob's real, whether he's really Jacob, whether he's a clone or something else, or there's something evil, whether it matters whether he's the actual Jacob or not. And I think in that moment he decides, this isn't really Barbara, so it doesn't really matter. This isn't my wife. This is an evil clone of my wife. And he is just going to kill them all. Or he literally says, like, he goes and he's talking to Henry at one point, and like, we're not going to do anything bad to them. He literally says, we're going to put they're like, they're not going to harm them or anything. We're going to put them in camps.
I'm sorry, what?
Can you, like, as
you can't say that.
As a person who has, like, experienced any history lessons.
Right.
Like,
if they say we're going to put you in camps, in case anyone's confused, that is not a fun summer camp.
And I think in that moment,
a bad thing.
I think in that moment, he sort of, like, is also realizing that he doesn't necessarily think of it as a bad thing, because he's just like, these people are not human. They need to be, like, contained.
His whole mind has just, his whole mind says
in that moment, he's like, I guess they'll, like, put him in a camp.
Or
and I'm
something.
like, and yeah, I mean, being Jewish, like, I react to that word a lot stronger maybe than some people, but that's, like, not a thing. Like, no.
Yeah. And I love that Lucille just smacked him across the face.
Yeah, and then she physically smacks him, and then Henry verbally smacks him when he says, everything the old man said about you was right. Like, I mean, this is, as Barbara said, this is Fred's dark side. He has turned to the dark side. All right, I've officially managed to get a Star Wars reference on all 3 shows I did tonight because it's Star Wars Day.
Oh, goodness. How could I not know that?
Well, may the 4th be with you.
Oh, there we go.
Yep.
So that happened.
No, that's a real thing.
I believe you.
Yeah.
I believe you.
But so then Fred gets on the horn. He calls Gonzalez, who's his, like, deputy, and he's like, you
might want to get here.
You should get back here. Some stuff's going down. And yeah, he gets back there, and the military has ramped it up. And, like, luckily, before this, though, Jacob has gotten away.
Well, so we think.
Well, for now, at least. I mean, I have my theories about the end of it, but we'll get into that. Because Henry and Lucille, like, Marty, this whole time, he brought the government in. That's his doing.
Yeah, that's on him.
I mean, do you think that was a good idea?
My instinct is just to say no, because I feel like that only brings in so many more issues. But at the same time, logistically, like, yeah, how are these people going to eat? But I feel like you could there's always a solution. You know what I mean? There has to be someone in town that doesn't mind whipping up, 200 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Or until they figured out that time, I think maybe eventually they should have called the government. I don't know until they had a handle on the situation themselves then to bring them in.
I still think Marty made the right call, as we said earlier. Like, I think he needed to. But then he doesn't realize how quickly it's going to get out of control, especially when Fred gets involved. And he thinks Fred's on his side.
And it just took such a turn for the worse.
Yeah. And then, so this whole, throughout this episode, Henry and Lucille have been sort of keeping track of not keeping track of, they've been taking care of, is what I meant to say, the Thompsons, this African-American family who Jacob found them in the woods. They're like him, so he really takes a shine to them.
He's very protective over Jenny.
Yeah, he really, he has such a crush on Jenny. It's so cute. He's so cute.
Little puppy love.
He's like, what's a possum? They're delicious.
That was, oh my gosh.
I mean, and that's because, like, as we learn more about them, they're from, like, 60 years ago or so. The father worked in Henry's grandfather's factory. Right. Or the factory, the Langston factory. And, like, so it was in that era. And they talk about how they lost their son. They never found their baby. There's just 3 of them. They were all together. They all drowned in a flood, and they had their baby with a little crescent birthmark on the back of his neck.
What do we find at the end of the episode?
Well, wait for that. I want to talk about that whole scene as one, because that scene is just
almost there.
So much in that one scene. But so they set that up, and then when they get that little robocall from Fred, they're like, okay, we should go see about this. But Marty's like, Langston's, no, we got to get you out of here. So they go back, and when they realize that Marty tries to bring the Thompsons out because he says, I'm going to get them out. Don't worry about it. Because he realizes that they're friends of the Langstons, and I think there's that lingering moment where he's sort of looking at them. And he's like, all right, these people are important. I'm gonna help them out. And so he takes them, and he tries to leave. And that's when Langston's men are like, no. And that's the beginning of all the reveal of like that this is not helping them out. This is a carefully coordinated quarantine. And as the military commander says later in the episode, like they're quarantining the whole town, which is honestly what I would expect if this situation was really happening. That's what that's how I would expect the government to react. It's not about like putting people in camps or anything, but who knows what this means scientifically. Keep everybody in the general vicinity of the town, not keep them all locked in a gym. That's a little crazy, but it seems reasonable to say the people in this town need to stay in this town until we understand what's happening. Yeah. Because this is it changes the world. Right. And who knows what, like, without knowing what it means, where these people are coming from, why they're coming back, it makes sense to keep them contained. The fact that they're doing it with guns is worrisome. And in a school gym, but yeah, keeping them all locked in this small area, but Marty busts enough of them out. Yeah. So then at this point, like they're all on the run, and the Langstons have a very difficult decision to make. Henry gave Jacob 2 promises that he would always be with him and that he would keep him safe. And I knew the instant he said, I will keep you safe. I promise to always keep you safe. I was like, never say that, Henry. You don't say that. Yeah. And he's like left to the wind. Or like he has to let Jacob go. They have to just get him out. And so, which I think was a really, really good call. Yeah. It's the only thing that they can do, really, because they know that Fred's coming in. That creepy guy. Fred sends their creepiest officer to watch the Langstons. Like Carl, it's Carl, which is the guy who was helping to kidnap Rachel. Here's the thing: at this point, I don't care if you're creepy or not. If you're one of those cops, you're already a bad. You're already a bad guy. Well, except for that guy who was like, "No, this isn't right," and he said, he threw down his badge, said, "I'm not going to do this." Right, but I'm saying whoever's sitting in front of the Langstons at this point is a bad guy. Yeah, so. It's not a great position for anyone to be in. So they get Jacob, they send him with Marty, and they get him out of there. And like everyone's just trying to react. We see the Thompsons are brought by Tom and Rachel to awkwardly to Janine's sister's place. Yeah, and I thought this is Tom reaching out to his to his the only person who knows he can help him. Right. It's the only place they know they can send him. So this is all building up, and Marty and Jacob are on the run. Jacob's back in the red sweater, bringing it all back. Mint chocolate chip ice cream, which I just thought was so sweet and just so childish. And the two buddies on the road again. Yeah. But this time Jacob can talk. Yep. And they pull up to this road that Henry said, you take this fire road, you'll be able to get out. And then they pull up, and there's a bunch of dead cicadas in the road. And I guess Mark helped us. He confirmed that those are cicadas and not locusts. But I think that's more or less the same thing. I don't know. I don't know the science. Go into... but it is creepy, to say the least. Cicadas are, for those of you who don't know, we talked about it a little bit. Cicadas only come out every 7 years. And they just swarm everything, destroy crops, it is scary when you get a cicada swarm, because they literally can block out the sun. It can be that bad. It's crazy. And there's like one live one. I'm thinking the cicadas are like coming back the same way that the Returned are coming back. It'd be interesting to see. But what's crazier about this sequence is that all of a sudden there's the cicada flying, and then you just rack focus,
and then it
and there's
into a helicopter.
Not just a helicopter, and not just a military helicopter, but some kind of crazy sci-fi military helicopter.
Yeah.
It had like fancy guns on it. It was like, I don't even know how to describe it. It was crazy.
I think it was a little much. I think that's a little. Well,
it depends. It depends whose helicopter that is, and we have no idea because this is where we leave the show. And we get 2 black SUVs, again, not military. The black SUVs suggest either FBI,
right,
CIA,
so
something.
It's all the government.
The Men in Black. Somebody, not the military, which is good, honestly. I think that's a good thing. But what? And then the big reveal at the last second,
Marty.
The crescent on the back. Marty is returned.
Dun dun dun.
How crazy is that? Twist.
Yeah. I wonder why he hasn't verbalized that he is.
He doesn't know.
How does he not know?
Well, because he died as a baby. Him and the Thompsons, he is the Thompsons' baby boy. That means he died as a baby. So he came back.
And he just thought that was his life.
And at first, my first initial thought was that, he was just their baby that they lost, and then he grew up. But he's just their kid. Yeah. And it's so
crazy ending to season 1.
I mean, real quick as we wrap up, let's do a quick predictions round. Chelsea.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV.
So much to think of going forward.
So much. You know what? I don't even want to sit here and say a solid prediction. I just think all I'm going to say is I don't think that they're taking Jacob, because I don't envision the family going to visit Jacob. I don't think that's happening.
Yeah, I don't even know how much we could do with predictions for this.
Right.
I'm going to say simply for my prediction for this one, I think that the helicopter and the SUVs, I think that those are good guys.
Okay, interesting.
They seem very threatening. I think we're going to come back and find out that they are good guys. Fingers crossed season 2. We don't know yet. So please go on to the ratings, tweet at ABC, tweet at everybody that we want this show to come back. And guys, that is going to do it for season 1 of Resurrection on AfterBuzz TV. It's really sad. It was a short season.
It was.
We only got 8 episodes, but it was a fantastic 8 episodes.
And thank you guys so much for watching.
Yeah, thank you. The fan support for this show has been phenomenal. I've had a blast hosting this show. So for one last time for this season, Chelsea Briche, where can the people find you?
The people can find me. My Twitter and Instagram handle are at cbriche, CBRICHE. Thank you guys.
And you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, all those places at that Zach Wilson. You can catch me here on Grimm. I got a bunch of other new shows coming up later in the summer. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Zach Wilson, and thanks for geeking out with us.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.
Thank you for watching AfterBuzz TV on YouTube. For more of your favorite after shows and interviews, subscribe to our channel here, and be sure to share your opinion on the episode in the comment section below here. We'd love to see what you guys are buzzing about. Thanks again. Buzz you later.